Well. Welcome back, everyone. We're here to talk about wokeness and the wokies. All right. Okay. So, this is a topic that I've wanted to talk about for quite a while at this point. There's a fucking bug in my room. I will kill you. Anyway, the reason I really want to talk about this is because I feel like there has been this greater push against wokeness, which is great, don't get me wrong, but I do feel like some people are taking it a little bit too extreme and not understanding the problems when it comes to wokeness. What is actually woke media versus just media that happens to have diverse characters, right? And I think that's the distinction that we really need to talk about, because if we don't, we're going to end up with some let's just say people who are very happy to use gamer words very quickly. So let's talk about it. So I think first things first, we should probably define wokeness in the first place. What is wokeness, right? What is 4chan? Who is he, all right? But to just give a simple definition of wokeness, I know a lot of people like to point to, Marxist cultural ideas being the center of wokeness, which is pretty accurate. But I think to simplify it even more is that wokeness is just the idea that collective characteristics are far more important than individual characteristics. It's at its heart, at its core, it is a collective idea, right? Which is the biggest problem, because when you have a story, oftentimes it is not about collectives. It is about individuals. It is about the individual characters going through journeys. So when you have all of these characters as collectives, you end up with a lot of problems. So I won't really go into the sins that wokeness tends to cause, because oftentimes it's not necessarily directly causing major problems like showing the author's hand, in my opinion. But what I do think that wokeness often does is that it will treat characters not as characters, but as representations of whatever group that character is in. So to give an example, right, in the newest Star Wars series, Acolyte, these characters who are going around, the main characters, what is it, May and Osha, some dumbass names, but basically they're not May and Osha, right? It's not like they are characters who have their own drives, wills, ideas, or anything like that. Instead, they are stand-ins for black women. And because they are stand-ins for black women, they can't experience anything that is particularly negative that would only pertain to them, right? They can't have a character arc where they have a weakness that is fundamental to who they are and does not exist in any other black woman, right? They can't have that, because if you have that, you're saying that all black women are like that? How dare you? Okay, black women are the most disrespected group in America. But yeah, that's ultimately the biggest problem with woke characters, is that they are not allowed to be characters. They are not allowed to have ideas or anything beyond just who they are. If they're black, they have to be black. They can't be, anything else other than what we stereotypically perceive black people to be, which is the insane part, right? It is a ideology that tries to say that people of this certain characteristics are not a monolith, right? You can't look at them all the same way, but at the same time, we're going to go and say, oh, well, this character right here represents all of this particular group. And so that is the core heart of the issue. It is that these characters are not allowed to be characters. They are not allowed to have their own problems. They are not allowed to have their own hardships. They are not allowed to fail. Because if you say they fail, guess what? You're saying everyone in that group is exactly the same way, which is very dumb. But to give a good example of just diversity, right? Just showing a character that happens to be outside the social norm, right? Is someone like Vi from Arcane. Vi very clearly is what we would like to call a boss girl, right? She punches people. She's very rough. She's aggressive. She's kind of manly. And she turns out she happens to be a lesbian, right? Well, doesn't really matter, because her character in itself is that she is very hard on herself. She caused a lot of problems for her family. She saw the death of her adopted father, and that weighs on her heavily. And the fact that her sister, right? She doesn't know what's going on with her for 5 years. All of this can really be summarized in the fact that she did not behave in a way beholden to a leader, even though her dad Vander told her, hey, when you are leading these kids, they look up to you. You have to be the better person. And eventually she learns that the hard way. But if this was any other story, right? Number one, she wouldn't let Vander talk to her like that because, as you know, we are held under a patriarchal society. Therefore, if you're a man, you can't be talking down to a woman because that's wrong. Well, it doesn't fucking matter in Arcane because they realize that Vander is her fucking dad. And you know what that means? That means teaching your kid, talking to them, and letting them know, hey, you caused a problem. It's okay. I will try to solve it the best way I can, but there are consequences to your actions, and you have to understand that, especially because you are the older sister to all these kids. You have to act in a way that is accordant to who you are. I know it sucks. I know what we have right now sucks, but it will get better. Trust me. That's not a conversation that could happen in a woke story with woke characters, because again, Vi is not a character in herself. She is the girl boss lesbian, right? In a woke story, she would be the girl boss lesbian. And once Vander tried to tell her, you have to act beholden to your position, she would have been like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, the patriarchy might say that, but I say otherwise, and probably like punch him or some shit like that. Because again, these characters can't be characters in woke media. They have to be representations of the identity groups that they are part of. And because of this, because Vi is treated as a character and not the representation of all of these different groups, the story allows her to fail. The story allows her to be wrong. The story allows her to have very, what we would like to say, gray morals. And it's okay because, again, Vi is her own person. She is allowed to be her own person, and she is allowed to act in a way that is accordant to who she is. Not to what the group is, but to who she is. I would say Arcane in general has a lot of good examples of characters who are diverse or have characters who are more than the representation of their characteristics. Like, just for another example, Jace. In any other woke story, Jace would have been the evil white man who is there just to ruin a bunch of things and act like a complete dick with no, earnest, part of himself at all, right? He would have went around basically acting like he owned the place, and then he would have treated everyone like shit, particularly all the women in the story, because as you know, that's how reality works for whatever fucking reason. I don't know in what universe men are acting this way. Maybe in Eastern Asian countries. I say this as a Korean myself. I get it. There are a lot of problems over there, but not in fucking America, okay? But no, what you see with Jace is you see a character who is, number one, very empathetic. A lot of the things that he does is for good reasons. And that's why his story is particularly heartbreaking, because you see a lot of the things that he's doing are for very good intentions. But it doesn't matter how good your intentions are, because if your execution, your actions aren't good, you can end up in a horrible situation. And that's what he comes to realize by the end of his story. But yeah, this has honestly just been a glowing recommendation for anyone who hasn't seen Arcane to go and watch it, please. I know the characters seem like they're kind of woke at face value. Trust me, they're not. But that's the point of this video, is that, again, diversity does not equal wokeness. For a story or a character to be woke, what they have to do is treat the character like they are the collective and not the individual. So that's really what I want to talk about today. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'm probably going to do another video talking about politics in gaming, because I feel like a lot of people have pointed to Metal Gear Solid and be like, oh, well, look, there's politics in games. How come you like that, but you don't like other ones, without understanding that people like politics that have to do with the game's politics, not real world politics in my fucking game. But yeah, that's a topic for another time.